Welcome to StopFake, the place where we debunk disinformation about Ukraine and set the record straight. I'm Irena Chalupa, and I'm thrilled to present this week's edition. Among the fakes this week, we present: the European Union calls the free trade zone with Ukraine useless. Ukraine to pay Yanukovych and sons $250,000 in compensation. Russian sites publish fake Ukrainian finance minister letters, and Ukraine is denied EU membership. That's this week's edition of StopFake, so let's get to it. The Russian website Ukraina.ru published a story claiming the European Union has admitted the free trade agreement with Ukraine is a complete failure because impoverished Ukrainians don't have enough money to buy European goods and domestic companies are not ready to enter the European market. The article attributes these claims to Jan Tombinsky, the head of the EU delegation in Ukraine. The article further claims that ousted President Viktor Yanukovych knew that Ukraine's economy wasn't ready for European integration. That's why he pulled out of signing the EU association agreement and the free trade agreement at the last minute. European and American political support for the Maidan protests led to a coup. The EU agreement was quickly signed, causing a downturn in Ukraine's economy, and all of this has led to the failure of the free trade zone, concludes Ukraina.ru. Tombinsky never called the free trade zone a failure. What Tombinsky actually said is this, quote, "Today, we can say that the free trade zone, the open market with the EU, is not being used as we wanted and expected it to be used, and all because of the many structural weaknesses of the Ukrainian economy." End quote. Tombinsky explained the zone is encountering obstacles, but he is optimistic and points out that Europe is ready to help identify those Ukrainian businesses that can export their goods to the European Union. Nothing will be given just like that. The European market is very competitive, and Ukraine should take advantage of the support that Europe provides, Tombinsky said. StopFake contacted David Shtulik, the EU press officer in Ukraine, about Ukraina.ru's fake claims. The Russian site completely twisted what Tombinsky said, wrote Shtulik. Statistics show that the EU is already Ukraine's largest trading partner. The number of Ukrainian businesses with the necessary certificates to export their goods to the European Union is growing, as is the number of investors from the EU and other regions, said David Shtulik. Those Ukrainian companies that comply with EU standards export all over the world because EU standards are internationally recognized, first of all by developed countries. It is too soon to see results from the free trade zone. This is a medium-term process. Ukraine must invest in its own businesses so they can comply with world standards, wrote David Shtulik. The EU Association and Free Trade Agreement came into effect on January 1st, 2016, and has been in operation only 3 months. The Russian website Dni.ru published a story entitled "Ukraine Denied EU Membership." Dni.ru's source for this claim is an interview the Netherlands Prime Minister Mark Rutte gave the Dutch publication NUNL. NUNL posed the following question to Rutte: Russia is also important when talking about stability at the external borders of Europe. Rutte answered as follows: "I think that in the longer term, Ukraine should develop a relationship with Russia that is stable. Opponents of the EU Association Agreement claim that this is a step on the road to EU membership, but the Association Agreement is not at all about this. The Netherlands is also against membership because we believe that Ukraine should have good relations with Europe and with Russia. This is not possible if Ukraine is in the European Union," said Rutte. This is the personal opinion of the Dutch Prime Minister and does not represent the opinion of the entire European Union. And decisions on admitting new members to the EU are taken collectively. Ukraine has not filed an application for EU membership, but plans to do so only after 2012. Lenta.ru and the Russian military site Zvezda reprinted this fake story with even more gleeful headlines. "No place for Ukraine in the EU. Dutch Premier deprives Ukraine of EU membership chances." Former Ukrainian Justice Minister Olena Lukash announced on her Facebook page that an EU court ordered Ukraine to pay Yanukovych and his sons the amount of 6.3 million hryvnia in compensation, roughly $250,000. Lukasz claims that Ukraine must pay this sum to former President Viktor Yanukovych and his two sons because of Ukrainian Justice Ministry's negligence, as Ukraine was forced to withdraw its suit against Yanukovych. As a result of this carelessness, the European Court ordered Ukraine to offset the costs incurred by the plaintiffs as a result of Ukraine's suit against them, maintains Lukasz. The plaintiffs in this case are Viktor Yanukovych and his two sons Alexander and Viktor, who died in March of 2015. Scores of media republished this information, using Lukasz's Facebook post as their source. Ukraine's Justice Ministry published a rebuttal of Lukasz's claim, calling it a figment of her imagination. According to Ukraine's Justice Ministry, there is no decision by the European Court ordering any compensation to the former president, as there is no ruling against Ukraine and in favor of Yanukovych. Lukasz's claim is an attempt to whitewash Yanukovych's image and blacken Ukraine's. Last year, the Yanukovych family petitioned the European Court of Justice to remove the financial sanctions imposed by the EU and asked for compensation. StopFake read the original EU court decision concerning the appeal. The decision rejects the Yanukovych family's application and makes no mention of any compensation due from Ukraine. On the contrary, the decision states that the plaintiff must pay his own court fees and his application is rejected because it is manifestly inappropriate. On March 26, the Russian site Ridus published what it claimed was a letter from Ukrainian Finance Minister Natalie Yaresko to American Assistant Secretary of State for European and Eurasian Affairs Victoria Nuland. In the letter, Yaresko asks Nuland to help postpone the Dutch referendum on the EU association agreement with Ukraine, which is planned for April 6th. Among the Russian websites that reprinted this story were Novostnoy Front, Narodny Korrespondent, E-News, and many others. Ukraine's finance ministry denied it had anything to do with such a letter. The information published on the Russian websites on March 26 is untrue, and the letter purporting to be from Finance Minister Yaresko is a fake. The numbering on the letter does not correspond to the indexing format that the ministry adheres to in registering all of its correspondence, wrote the Finance Ministry's press service in response to StopFake's inquiry. Yaresko also published a copy of the fake letter on her social media account with annotations showing its inauthenticity. There's a bad fake letter making the rounds on the Russian internet in which I ask the US to help postpone the referendum in the Netherlands, tweeted Minister Yaresko. On the eve of the Dutch referendum, a variety of fakes have appeared on many Russian websites. In February, a document was published claiming that Ukraine would try to sabotage the referendum. Earlier, fake Azov videos appeared threatening the Dutch with retaliation if they voted against the EU association agreement with Ukraine. That's it for this week. Our video digest only presents a small amount of the fakes we debunk every week. Look for fresh fakes which we set straight on the StopFake website. Be vigilant, beware of fakes. If you spot any disinformation about Ukraine, forward it to us for a truth autopsy. We'll see you next week. I'm Irena Chalupa, and this is StopFake. Thanks for watching.